Oof. Oh my goodness. I didn't even boot up OBS. I just absentmindedly hit go live. Oh wow. So today I want to get back to my excuse me. Today I'm gonna get back to my roots, to my humble origins, or something closer to the origins of this channel than what has been the vibe here lately. Um, yeah, 1 second. Oh gosh. Oh, does that work? Oh, it's kind of blinding. Let's see. Yeah, I was not prepared for this, at all. Anyway, it's fine. This is good enough. Hi, it's me again. What? I know. Excuse me. Starting with a big yawn today. So today is not an ICC, but I do still have some of my not iced coffee left. The order number today is 9606. And the time I placed the order was 2:33:22. 3 twos is a 6, 2 threes is a 6. Interesting. So, anyway, I have this idea. The reason why I pull before and after cards now, I feel like evolved as I'm thinking about doing what I'm about to do. It evolved from significators, sort of being placeholders or anchoring something, but not necessarily meant to be read themselves. So I had an idea because as I was shuffling through the top drawer to get whatever deck I was getting, I saw my Lafruma Raw runes. And so I had an idea to, I guess, inspired by the concept of a bind rune, to pull some of the raw Lafruma runes. And then I was like, well, how do you put them together? Because it seems like sometimes there may be an additive effect and other times there may be like a subtractive one, whatever the opposite of additive is, diminutive effect. And then I was like, okay, well, I can use tarot in between the runes to see how one would sort of affect another. Also, I did bind runes for the Zodiac rune series. I don't think I finished all of them. Actually, I might still have the sticky notes on my computer. Sticky notes. Loading sticky notes. Not this one. Or this one. It would appear I don't have the sticky notes up. I wonder if I even have it anymore. Notes list. One second. I do have quite a few on here. If I have the sticky note, not only will I have the signs, but I'll also have. Here we go. We're getting closer. I do. 9/15/2021. That is crazy. 2021, 9/16, 9/15. Sorry. How do I open this note? Do I double click you? Yep. So I did Capricorn, Scorpio, Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, and Sagittarius. Is that 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I made it halfway through the zodiac. So it's in the collection of half finished series on this channel. Capricorn was Van Condel. Scorpio was Thorntier. An extraction of light, a baptism in shadow. Virgo, natal stinkness, Feo, the Weaver's magic. Pisces, ale towardness, dankness, the plant before the fish, before the dog. Gemini, Rippian, natal Hegel, being less opens the door to be more. Sagittarius was Aoc, the oak grows from you. Isomeric magic. Whoa. I don't even remember. I don't remember most of these. I remember Virgos because Virgos was full of like some kind of like whimsy or whatever. And then it was the realization that whatever Virgo was working with was just a medium. It was just a tool. The real magic was in Virgo all along. I can close these. I only did 4 of these, looks like. Oh, I guess I didn't really need the other one either. Anyway, I did do it then, and I'm going to use the Wild Unknown Alchemy, the Wild Unknown Tarot Pocket Edition, the Lafruma Raw Runes, and I want a Temperance Anchor. And I'm trying to think of the deck that I want it in. And I think I might go for the Tarot Apocalypsis. Because Temperance is the angel. In the Tarot Apocalypsis, that's one deck that I have where she's like actively mixing something. We saw it recently. I don't remember what it looks like in the Witch's Tarot. I think it's just the angel in the Witch's Tarot with the gold fire thing on her chest and the rainbow behind her. The Pride Tarot, I'm pretty sure it's like some liquid going from one cup to another. So, from recollection, we're going to go with the Astrometrics Tarot. Now I'm in the habit of pulling before and after significators. I kind of wanted to do multiple of these, and then I could, if I did do multiple, I could shuffle it back into the deck every time. Why not? I don't know how long this is going to take. The Sun, the 5 of Cups was the final card last time, I believe. Mars and Scorpio and the Sun. We saw the Sun with the Page of Swords. The 6 of Wands and the Sun. Okay. I feel like there were things I was going to say or clarify. Ooh, the Emperor with the 6 of Wands. What? And this Emperor has that. I forget what it's called. But this Emperor has that halo-y type thing too. But instead of the orb in one hand on this Emperor, it has the world. And I remember the 2 of Wands, 3 of Wands that came out in the 8-Bit Fantasy Tarot with that energy of like to be in the world but not of it, which is it's a good enough general approximation of the energy. If it resonates differently, then take that. What's interesting is though that this Emperor is more Martian than most. It has its Aries motif. We see the skull. Maybe that's something that's interesting because we see the skull of the ram at the top of the throne. We see the ram heads at the sides like we usually do. But there's also the eagle, and the eagle represents Scorpio. Aries plus Scorpio roughly equals Mars because Mars is the ruler of both. He has the Ankh. Oh, the thing around his head with the sun. That's a symbolism we've been seeing a lot lately. And it's in this Emperor. This emperor, I don't know what it is about this emperor, but it feels like it has a hierophant like feeling. And we also see the eagle perched on top of the shield. The shield reminds me of the Ace of Pentacles that was in the lap of the King of Pentacles. The King of Pentacles fixed Earth Taurus opposes Scorpio on the zodiac wheel. I feel like there's a lot in this Emperor card. And the Six of Wands, again, have to cut with it. This could be the same person. If this is the same person, though, we also have what Jupiter and Leo trine that Aries energy. Something is going on in fire. Well, we have Jupiter and Leo. We didn't have Sagittarius. Sagittarius was the missing element, and I guess we're looking for Temperance today. And Temperance was there last time as the missing element. So, but it almost seems less like the Six of Wands is a younger version of the Emperor, and it almost feels more like the Six of Wands is the Emperor in motion. Like when the Emperor has something that they need to do or go take care of, they get on the horse, maybe they shave, they get battle ready, and it's the Six of Wands. And then when they're not, they sit as this Emperor. What would the Emperor move for? That is beyond the scope of this reading. Ooh. Yes. Oh, now the Wheel of Fortune is there with the Emperor. What I love about the Wheel of Fortune and the Emperor together is there's a heavy energy of almost taking fate into one's own hands. We also see that eagle again. They all have books, the fixed signs in this Wheel of Fortune. Perched on the book, perched on the shield. And also, the innermost circle of this Wheel of Fortune looks like what the freak? I'm like, what is this? The innermost circle of the Wheel of Fortune looks like a globe, doesn't it? And that's the exact thing that the Emperor is holding in their hand. There's the zodiac wheel outside of that globe. And I guess one thing that you could, if it's not a matter of perspective, those are the majors. So we have one through, no, they're not. No, they're not. That's the clock. I thought it was 1 to 21. Are these the majors? It goes beyond the majors. So that's hours in the day, maybe? It could be read as hours in the day. It feels like, though, things that exist beyond the world. The innermost circle is Earth. The ring outside of that holds the zodiac signs. Outside of that, we see 1 through 12. And then outside of that, we see 1 through 24. But yeah, the whole taking, I don't know if it's necessarily taking fate into our own hands, but having the strength to move that little fortune. All right. Oh gosh, I am not ready. And then the hanged one comes out again with that same halo that we saw last time. Bottom of the deck is the Page of Wands. This Page of Wands in a very similar sort of positioning as the what was it? The Page of Fire, Page of Fire, the Six of Fire, and like the playfulness and stuff like that. What's interesting about this Page of Wands, though, is their wand is on fire. I've noticed it, but I've never paid significant attention to it. Their wand is on fire, and the wand is the stick that has growth on it. Now, you would think that it would burn out, so the Page of Wands would be more considerate of that fact or cautious. But it's not. And it's next to this hangman. Almost like there's an energy of like, I could say, and then the magician is there at the cut. I could say, and look, the magician is holding up the wand. See? And then there's that orb that's not necessarily the world here. I could say it's something like you have to spend money to make money. It's almost like something that you would think works against your own interests, right? Why would the Page of Wands set their wand on fire so that it like burns out or is reduced to cinders? But something with that hanged one, hanged man energy knows that it's the correct move to make. Something counterintuitive lurks in the depths. I'm going to pull from the bottom since I'm looking before and after, and for the sake of time, we'll get the alchemy pull before and after the alchemy first, and then lay out the runes. I think, oh, I may not need it. Eight of Cups, Justice, and the Queen of Swords are the bottom three, with the Page of Wands behind that Queen of Swords. It's interesting that Ma'at has this like pinnacle and a crescent moon type thing above her head. We also see the crescent moons on her sword. It feels like it's similar to that moon in the Eight of Cups somehow. And then the Queen of Swords also has a sword, but hers only has, you could say, like one of these crescent moons on it rather than both. You could say that. I guess I just did. Whoa, whoa! The Lovers is behind the Queen of Swords. How did the Page of Wands? The Lovers was like, hide. What am I looking for? Temperance. Oh, Temperance is in between the Five of Swords and the Tower. We see the Eye of God or the Eye of Ra or the Eye of Horus in that Tower card. With the Five of Swords, again, going back to the sword of the Queen of Swords versus the sword of Justice, there's almost an energy here like these swords are being collected. And then we have the Tower on the other side. Oh, the Tower is also Mars. Five of Swords is Venus and Aries. The Tower is Mars, and on the Emperor, we saw both the Ram and the Eagle, both Aries and um, Scorpio energies. I had already forgotten. Just that quick. So that's that there. And then I kind of want to just pull these off the top. But I didn't shuffle them while I was live. So I'm going to give these a quick shuffle. Oh, we have number 10 and number 55. 5 plus 5 is 10. I have the cut, wool, owl senses, and 9 shadows, nutrients. So we have shadows and the ability to see through them. Yeah, I'm using the raw runes. There is like, can you see it? These are like in a gel pen. There you go. So they got a little glitter, a little shimmer to the shadow. Ooh. Earth grap just flipped over. Oh gosh. And Brahm just fell out. It fell out in reverse though. So it almost looks like Ool, but it doesn't have those eyes to see. Okay, I'm not looking for jumpers here. Cut it. There we go. I'm going to pull the rune off the top. Then I'm going to pull a Wild Unknown Terror off the top. A rune. I want to do 3 runes. I was going to leave it up to chance between 2 and 4 runes. Ooh. Father of Cups just came out with the 7 of Pentacles at the bottom, but I'm not taking jumpers. 5 of Cups with the King of Cups, Father of Cups. 5 and the Father. All right. I'm going to do one more and then a cut. Okay. Should I? Sure. We'll say 24 minutes. I don't always timestamp these. Even though some of these may be appreciated. Alrighty. The first rune is Brahm. Because why wouldn't it be the one that fell out on the floor? Brahm, Butcher's Broom, Scrub. And then the Tower. We have the Tower again. The Butcher's Broom and Scrub, and then we have the Tower. I guess because we had Mars, specifically Aries, in the Emperor. Saturn in Aries has some kind of energy. Also, we saw the Warrior, the Destroyer, and whatever other Wild Unknown archetype that came out the other day. It's fine. whatever comes out, comes out. Sometimes I'm, even myself, I'm like, I'm tired of this. We're supposed to be having fun. We're supposed to be exploring. Okay. The next rune is tear smelt. And that connects through the Fool to the final rune, which is Earth Magian, thy earthly power. We see one of the eyes that the Brahm is missing. So it's almost like discarding the tarot. This arrow in tier next to Brahm is that, like, first you turn it in reverse and then you plop an eye in one of these, and then you would have to drop another one on the other side, and that's how you would move from Ul to, or that's how you would move from Brahm to Ul. This is like literally cleansing or purging. There's something of an almost like exfoliant to Brahm. It's to scrub something clean, right? So in the tower, not only are certain things, not only do certain things fall apart, fall to the wayside, it's like what is no longer needed or necessary is scrubbed away. But simultaneously, it sharpens and hones anything that remains. The Fool is zero. So not only does it sort of like return someone to a more pristine previous condition, but it also is this void vessel receptacle that is able to receive whatever this earthly power is. It removes impurities while it hones or sharpens the remaining material. And with the symbolism of the bird stepping off of that branch, and we did just see a page of wands that had a branch kind of like this. It seems like in the positioning of like the growth on the branch, um, it almost resembles that. But in that moment, right, either the bird falls or flies. The bird that flies is the one that discovers its earthly power. Brahm and Tyr are the crucible. I feel like I don't even need an alchemy card for this, but what is the alchemy of this? Ooh. Oh gosh. Guess what card came out? Bottom of the deck is Nebula Fog, which is number 39. 3 plus 9 is 12. We did see the Hanged One. Also in the pre-shuffle, I saw Fog with Dissolution. Dissolution of the Fog. Dissolution of the Fog, pictorially, in this deck has been gold. It is the warmth of gold, the ability to conduct, the conductance of gold. Something about gold dissipates fog. The card that came out, two came out. The first one is Saturn, which is number 7. 34 is 7. 17 and 56. In Thy Earthly Power, we also have Saturn. They're both a 7. Anyway, when Saturn came out, I was like, okay, Aries, Saturn and Aries, the Emperor. I was kind of just thinking about the relationship. It's fine. We ain't got to go all the way there. We also have 36, which is a 9. I feel like 36 has kind of been like popping up a lot lately. Pneuma, breath. Saturnipneuma. Is that what I'm going to title this? Sure. Saturnipneuma. We're just going to, I guess that's what I do. I just cram the words together. Saturnipneuma. UE? EU. Like pneumatic. Saturnipneuma. It's also interesting that Nebula fog is at the bottom of the deck because Saturn is conjuncting Neptune in Aries. And I would say that Neptune can be more than just the fog, but it is definitely nebulous. What's interesting is also there's an eye in the fog. Looks like the eye of an owl. First, I was like, oh, is that a crescent moon? But I was like, oh, no, that's eye. Maybe this is a silver rather than the gold of smoke that clears the fog. This is silver in the nebula. If silver isn't polished, it can tarnish. Under, oh, look, here's the dissolution again. But this time, instead of them being right next to each other, I mean, they came out at the cut. In reverse between the fog and its dissolution is antimony, Stibus, the what, gray wolf, the white wolf of alchemy. And it's not necessarily a question of like how easy it would be for the white wolf or the gray wolf to blend in with fog. It feels like it would be perfectly camouflaged. You can walk right by it. It can walk right by you, and like we wouldn't even know that it was literally right there the whole time. Now Saturn holds the gold that dissipates the fog. Saturn has been conjuncting. No, this is where they conjunct exactly. This is where that conjunction goes exact. Because they were both in Pisces for a while. And I remember looking, I was like, is Saturn going to conjunct Neptune in Pisces? They're going to conjunct in Neptune or in Aries. They might conjunct in Pisces because they're both going to retrograde. I'm not sure. I don't have my iPhone or my iPad, so I can't check. It's irrelevant. I think one thing, because we have the eye of God, especially in the tower, or Horus. Again, there's an element to this that is, you could say, ordained. But it feels like this fog here, and maybe this is the white wolf that hides in the fog, or the one that's almost impossible to detect. Is because Saturn is conjuncting Neptune right now. This fog is the breath of Saturn. This fog is not the whatever we associate Neptune to be. And I wouldn't necessarily say or think or feel that it feels intentional. There are so many things. Is it coincidence or is it intent? You know what I mean? When they conjunct exactly, we have all this Tower Mars energy coming out, obviously pointing to Aries. Aries is the Emperor, so we did see Aries. Then we see Mars at large. Mars is in Leo at the moment, probably finishing its transit before it heads into Virgo. It almost feels like it's not a bait and switch, but again, because this fog is the breath of Saturn, it is not a principle of Neptune. It's almost like astrologically or even energetically, we would have a foil or an approach for Neptune. We would approach, and see, that's the thing. Saturn brings substance. Neptune is associated with illusion. And so imagine being in a situation where you're like, this isn't real, this is an illusion, this can't hurt me, blah, 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 whatever. But then you like actually get like impacted and you're like, whoa, like this isn't supposed to be real. This is supposed to be a dream. Like I had a dream that somebody punched me in the face and I woke up with a bloody nose. Like, you know what I mean? It's because this is the breath of Saturn. This fog is the breath of Saturn. It's not your typical run of the mill Neptunian illusion. And maybe that's what gives it the ability to scrub and smell. It feels like with Neptune, it's more mental, emotional, psychological. With Saturn, it is more sort of concrete. So, in that way, that Saturn restricts, yeah, because if Saturn is restricting, there will be restriction. If Neptune is doing it, it's more like an Eight of Swords energy where we may sort of like think or feel in prison, but not actually be in prison. But again, with the smelting, this is a crucible, this is a forge, this is for a purpose. That's why Saturn is doing it. This fool, we've seen two fools recently. We saw the fool in the water gnome, not pocket sized tarot, that was backed by the Five of Pentacles. But we also saw the fool in the Notoria tarot, which had that vision, right? Excuse me. And we saw the hanged one that had that same vision. The Notoria fool became the angel. The water known fool was at the mercy of the intent and intention of whatever were listening to. The Ace of Pentacles is here at the bottom of the deck over here. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but it is. and the Ace of Pentacles is being offered, like the hand is coming out of that cloud. It's like if we can see the truth, if we can find the white or gray wolf in this fog, then the fog will dissipate and we'll be left on the other side with this Ace of Pentacles energy. Also, the Ace of Pentacles being gold, gold being the element that warms the fog and causes it to dissipate. Also, in the fog is this silver orb. If you don't polish silver, it will tarnish, but in that is antimony. Antimony eats through basically everything except for gold. So even if we do polish this silver in the fog, the presence of antimony will still cause it to decay. And then that is just an invitation for confusion, right? I'm polishing the silver. I know it's not gold. I'm doing this. I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing, but like the fog is still, like, it's getting worse. And again, it's because of the antimony. It's because of Saturn backing this Aries energy. It's because while at the same time there are energies of like now may not necessarily be the time to trust the wheels of fortune and fate and to put forward especially anything that you have been building, cultivating, creating with the divine in alignment. Like now is the time to take that. It's almost like the ship is going down and there are lifeboats, but like you have your own lifeboat, right? It's like, I guess, a plane where under some seats there are like the life vests. Under, if you sit by the aisle, like you're right there for when the whatever deploys. Under some seats are lifeboats, and some people are Olympic swimmers. And I gotta go to the restroom. I'm sorry. I'll be back. I've been going to. It's fine. Y'all don't need to know the state of my hydration. I will not forget to unmute. See, I didn't forget to unmute this time. Um, Also, I think the last time I was live, excuse me, there were some things that were playing out in a way that were more in our hands than initially um like led on. Or maybe it's just me. In the beginning, there were the parts of like non-interference, the parts where we have to sort of like step up or make whatever choice decision, enact whatever. Um, but I think it was in the last live where it was more like a lot of stuff came down to us. And I think even recently, it may have been the Emperor. It could have been a different card. But that one energy popped up again of like, what is fated to happen will happen. But just because something is fated to happen does not mean that the outcome is guaranteed, right? Let's say that like there is, what's up with the water today? Anyway, let's say that there's a dam that is fated to break. Some may put their efforts into like reinforcing the dam. Some may like you call in the best engineers and you make like the best dam ever. But What you don't know is that like there is going to be like a torrential rain or something, and it doesn't matter how strong or secured or well built the dam is, it's going to break. Again, some would put the efforts towards preventing it from breaking, but there's this recognition of fate where it's like the dam will break. And so the first thing that you do is like evacuate the people. Anyone who would be affected and impacted, you evacuate them so at least they can get to safety. Next, you would maybe make provisions for their possessions. And then anything beyond that is beyond that. I don't necessarily remember how self involved the aversion to an effect or impact of a fated event was, but as it sort of is sitting now, it seems like it's almost up to the individual or up to individuals. So maybe there are some who have already run a crucible of Saturn, who's already gone through their Saturnian whatever. The people who are in the meetings with the bigwigs, who now it's their time, maybe their challenge to speak and be heard or to contribute in some way because they are present for contribution. I don't know. It seems so much more self directed and focused. Not self directed and focused. I guess more like intentional human effort. But I feel like I shouldn't be too surprised at that because of the whole like there are certain earthly matters that need to be solved by humans. It's not for the divine to step in because we don't really learn when that happens. How many times do we pray like, oh, let this happen or let that happen, and if this happens I'll never do whatever again? How many graces and mercies do we exhaust? I mean, it's an inexhaustible resource, but you know, and then we go right back to whatever it is to be human. Oh, Mercury? I don't think I mentioned it. Mercury is behind dissolution too, by the way. There's Mercury. I don't know, I just kept looking at it. The antimony eats through everything but gold. Saturn had gold at its fingertips. I don't even know if I got to mention that because I was caught up in the whole whatever. I'm gonna try to stay focused today and not necessarily go on tangents and diatribes because that's not necessary. It's not irrelevant to the point, but they are points that have already been made or discussed, and they are still relevant in ways. But it's easy to muddle, I guess you could say, the message. That's why I say rely on your intuition and discernment as well. Oh, look, the fool again. Interesting. All right. We'll get another one. From the bottom, we have the Three of Pentacles, the Five of Wands, and the Four of Swords. 354. So we're either missing the Two of Cups or the Seven of Cups, right? To complete four numbers, I would lean towards the Two of Cups because 3 and 5 covers the no, not the 7, the 6, the 2 or the 6 of Cups. So now I'll take it back. If we add 3 plus 2 is 5, 4 plus 2 will be the 6. It doesn't matter. To have a run of 4 sequential numbers and 4 elements, the one missing would be either the 2 of Cups or the 6 of Cups. Well, there's the 5 of Cups. And we already got 5 wands. So But in the Five of Cups, two cups remain upright. So if the Five of Wands could turn away from the three spilled ones, rather than have a duplicate number, we would have what we're supposed to have. Something that would fit the pattern. And just because it fits the pattern doesn't necessarily mean it's right, because the pattern can be one that we don't necessarily recognize. Oh. I was like, oh, that was temperance. That was temperance. And then I see the Seven of Cups. I'm like, oh, well, that was a mistake. It's not the Two or the Seven of Cups. It was supposed to be the Two or the Six. There's the Eight of Swords at the bottom of the deck. But in this Eight of Swords, what I really notice is the Crow. So this time we find temperance in between the Page of Cups and the Seven of Cups. I kind of like this. This could be one of two things. On the other side of the Page of Cups is the Devil. So we have the Devil and the Eight of Swords flanking this. And the Five of Swords is behind this Eight of Swords. Excuse me. I kind of like this Page of Cups, Seven of Cups. With the Page of Cups, it makes it seem like the Seven of Cups knows what it is they're looking for. So either this is in a vision, a dream, some intuitive hit of what someone is looking for, and then they're presented with these choices and options, and they can make a best guess, best approximation, or this is someone who's presented with these choices and options with the Seven of Cups, but then they like look inside or whatever, and they find an eighth option that wasn't presented here. Now, this makes me think of Dreamland in the 8-bit Fantasy Tarot, because it's like a mermaid at the bottom of the sea or ocean. Interesting. So this is a function of onwardness, present gateway verdandi. And notice how it's not closed. I mean, this one, it's like, so this is, I think in the raw runes, it's per, or maybe it's per than the new, I don't know. Anyway, should I look? Oh, no, I can't look. Anyway, it's fine. It doesn't matter. You have this, and then you get like an east or a solid line that you kind of like slot in to complete this present moment gateway. Actually, it may be these two things that move, because I see how on the left they're overdrawn, and then on the right they're like broken or incomplete. So it's almost like you're sliding the top to create the frame. Now that could be. Is that? No, I think Angus, two of them. What is that? Oh, maybe it is Ing. Yeah, I think that is Ing. So it's like an Ing that you like. First, you got to separate it or break it apart to open it up, and then you like move it, slide it on top of these two Eases. Anyway, the Hierophant. And the Hierophant is a V, right? At the top and bottom, we have what is essentially two V's. That connects to Rasa. I explore, I engage. which is my lunar eclipse rune. And then the Six of Pentacles, followed by Wild Ox, or this almost makes me think of the Wild Woman that came out in the Mystical Shaman Oracle cards with the Soul Retrieval. Okay. I kind of like that there were two. So if I can get a clean, I'm gonna do a clean flip or a clean fall of the alchemy, especially since I'm pulling antimony again, especially since I'm pulling off the top of the other two. So we got two cards. First, Argentum vivum, Quicksilver, and we see Mercury on there. And then in reverse, it's volte faciem, the Despicable Face. Number 24 and 47, 48. XL 40, VIII 48 and 24. But this one was in reverse. Oh, no, not that one. This one. Oh, look. There's like the V that's pointed up in the white text. And then the one that's like the opposite. I know Argentum vivum is like the silver of life. Oof. This one is harder to put together. This one is like a spell or something. Rather than Saturnipneuma, Argentum vivum volte faciem. Oh, what time is it? Argentum vivum volte faciem. 5830. I know I'm all up close and personal. 5830. I almost want to look it up. I mean, what is volte? To roll or to turn. Volvere. Volvere is the root words like volvere in Italian, voltare in French. The English word volte-face specifically refers to a turnabout or reversal of opinion. To roll. Wait, isn't that? One second. No, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. Face roll. In the context of gaming, face roll refers to an action where a player's character's abilities are so strong or the game is so easy that a player can effectively win by simply rolling their face on the keyboard or controller without actively needing to think about or use complex strategies. It implies an effortless victory achieved with minimal effort. Thank you. An effortless victory achieved with minimal effort. And we have quick and quicksilver. Maybe we'll see. We'll see if anything comes of this. The what? Oil of vitriol is at the bottom of the deck. And it's number 35. Rolling face or a rolled face. And it's also interesting, like volvere is to roll and it came out in reverse. Right? I was like, face roll. I know that's something. I've heard that somewhere. I think it could be a verb. I guess you can face roll something and somebody can be like face rolled, or something could be face rolled. Often used in a disrespectful context. Face roll can be used in a dismissive or even insulting manner towards opponents or those perceived as face rolling. Examples in World of Warcraft. Let's go. Wow. I was just talking about the good old WoW days. I think I had talked to. It's. I never did go back to WoW. The time was never right. Um, or when the time was right, it was soon not right. You know. Okay. All right. So the presence of this Page of Cups inherently makes the Seven of Cups easier. And it's because something is found in the Page of Cups, but a choice is made in the Seven. So maybe the Seven of Cups is supposed to be like this really difficult choice, or it's supposed to be illusory. Like we're supposed to have some kind of mental internal conundrum as we like tried to choose one or the other. But the insightfulness, intuition, discernment, I don't want to say precognition, maybe something was illuminated to the Page of Cups, makes this choice extremely easy. Even before we got to the face roll. So what is that? Venus and Scorpio. That Venus and Scorpio energy is face rolled. The Page of Cups is face rolling. Whatever the Seven of Cups is. And it feels like it's in no small part to this Hierophant that sits in between a present and this exploration or engagement. I do have the book. Slippery, mobile, mercury, part liquid and part metal, quicksilver, also known as mercury. Mercury was at behind the dissolution. I was like, Mercury is here. I don't know why I'm mentioning it, but here we go. Quicksilver is a mesmerizing material. Its gift is to slip between worlds. It cannot be pinned down or easily defined. Mercury came to symbolize the god Hermes and the great hermetic secrets of alchemy, always sliding away into secrecy just beyond the alchemist's grasp. It is said Mercury represents the transition between the physical and the unseen worlds, between life and death, between science and the esoteric. It is the metal of sacred thresholds. Shamanic practitioners of every tradition must acquire the ability to stand at the doorway between worlds. This is no small feat. The Mercury card indicates the querent has a particular gift for such a task. It's no small feat, but this card indicates the querent has a particular gift for such a task. Face rolling. Let me stop. This is the work of the shaman, teacher, sage, artist, and alchemist. Heed the call of Quicksilver. The sacred threshold requires your attendance. And it feels like your attendance would almost literally be the only thing that is required. I feel like this barely scratches the surface of something. And it's not necessarily my intention to go deeper. But color me interested. Volte faciem, the despicable face. What is hidden, unaccepted, and shamed? The despicable face is never seen. Rather, it is kept in hiding to save outward appearances. This card appears when something below the surface wants to be witnessed in order to be transformed. Something below the surface that wants to be witnessed. With this Mercury card that has the ability to stand at the doorway between worlds, representing the transition between physical and the unseen worlds, life and death, science and esoteric. You could extrapolate what is known and unknown, what is hidden and what is plain. Everyone has their own version of the despicable face and their own reasons for assuming it is an abomination. It could be a buried resentment and insecurity, or a physical characteristic that holds us back from expressing our true self. Remarkably, once revealed, it is not despicable at all. It is human. It is interesting. What once was thought of as an error becomes an asset on our journey of alchemical transformation. This card connects us to others and to humanity as a whole. Through acceptance, we lift the veil of perfection and reclaim our energy. Honesty and acceptance are the balm that heals the most tender of wounds. Even with this like lunar eclipse, the lunar eclipse is interesting because it's the result of the moon effectively passing through the Earth's shadow. Oh, okay. Because I was like, well, if the moon is passing through the Earth's shadow, why is it red? But sunsets are primarily red, and I guess sunrises maybe because red has the longest wavelength, and because it has the longest wavelength, it like takes the longest to get to Earth. Maybe I should stick to the things that I think I know. I know red has the longest wavelength, right? And maybe it's the angle at which the sun sort of hits the atmosphere. I don't know if it's the ionosphere or whatever sphere, but at that angle, like red, yellow, orange lights have the wavelength to sort of like penetrate through to be seen and perceived by the eye. Right. So maybe that's why the moon appears to be red when it passes through the Earth's shadow. I guess especially at night. If we're talking about wavelengths of light, I don't know. Does this even matter? There's something between the red of Rasa and the pentacles in the Six of Pentacles. Almost like this is six lunar eclipses, all on the same branch. Also, notice how much more growth we see on this than the branch that the Fool was on, rather than the staff, the wand that the Page of Wands held. So there's feel like there's something here that I'm missing. And again, for the purposes of this, I don't necessarily think it's to get into the specifics generally, but I don't even know if I have enough to like. Because after that, it kind of like breaks down for me. Maybe it's just not mine. And I also wonder, because face rolling is so easy, there are so many things that you don't have to worry about, especially when you're talking about World of Warcraft, right? You have bosses or you have enemies, you have fights, you have different classes with different mechanics. And usually you have to adjust for those mechanics. But if you're so overpowered that you can just like burn a boss's health or you can survive anything that a boss throws at you, it becomes an entirely different game. Then you just like use your strongest spells or whatever abilities and you just like sort of tank the rest. So at that point, you don't even have to worry about the mechanics or anything. So that's why this would result in that wild ox sort of energy. I would say, though, even if you can ignore the mechanics, something about the Hierophant with this present moment gives a sort of sense of awareness of the situation. So maybe it's almost like knowing what mechanics you can avoid and knowing which you have to pay attention to. Like a general rule of thumb when you play pretty much anything is you don't stand in the things that hurt you. Right? So if there is fire on the ground, you don't stand in the fire. In World of Warcraft 2, a lot of attacks are televised. Uh, maybe not televised, telegraphed, right? Is it telegraph? Where you see the area that will be affected or impacted before the attack happens. Yeah, telegraphed attacks. It is telegraphing. Nice. So usually it's telegraph, so you know what the area and what the scope will be, and depending, you can like avoid it or not. So maybe in the space of a lunar eclipse, when the moon passes through the Earth's shadow, it's almost like there is one thing that we could sort of like get. Maybe there's one thing we can explore. Maybe there is one thing that we can more significantly engage in. But because this Hierophant provides so much insight in a present moment, not only it's like a multiple of six. This energy, person, whoever, combination of runes would get like six times as much information, six times the impact, six times whatever. And so that's what makes them unstoppable in this wild ox sort of energy. And it feels like part of it is seen, part of it is unseen, part of it is felt. Multiple senses are involved. There's like a, I don't know if it's sensory awareness, but that's what lets this energy just like face roll. Because usually, let's say that like there's like a business deal, right? And two people or companies are meeting at the table. One of them in earnest, the other one intends to like screw the other person over, right? This energy would be so perceptive. Like not only do they know that like the other person would like sort of set them up, but they know how, and they know how long it would take, and like all of this other stuff, right? And so either they can make the decision to still participate and do things so like by the book and with so many contingencies that they can't be screwed over, or they can decide to just like walk away, right? Like there's some internal element that this energy is keyed into, and maybe that's why the lid isn't fully on this moment. You could almost say it's blocked to the past but open to the future. And it's like that's the thing that makes that person almost unstoppable. Yeah, because they approach the Seven of Cups and they already know. Cool. We're just gonna move on. I'll do one more. Oh, I didn't. Let's read this one. Is it 38? I feel like it's not 38, but it may be. 35. Volte faciem. Not volte faciem. What is it? Oleum vitrioli? Oil of vitriol. This is acidity, resentment, and purification. When the green lion appears, a great alchemical reckoning is afoot. Long-standing frustration and imbalance cause this regal creature to lash out unconsciously, consuming all in its path. Be prepared for emotional turmoil as the lion thrashes about. Don't worry, these changes are necessary for growth and in the end will be a relief to all. Purification is the lion's aim, and it's determined to get there one way or another. When this card appears, the question must be asked: am I the green lion or the sun? The one consuming or the one being consumed? It is said that finding oneself in the mouth of the lion is a necessary moment on any spiritual path. As the discomfort passes, the sun's beams shine all the brighter. To ponder change as the only constant. The easiest way to face roll this lion would be to not have an abundance of impurity. It's a lion hungry for purification. So be pure enough that it has nothing to purify. Again, it speaks to like some kind of, but we make those choices and decisions in those moments. Are we going to try to screw someone over worse than they're going to screw us over? Or are we going to continue to have sort of like integrity or whatever? Right. In the example of the meeting, this is an energy that chooses integrity. It chooses integrity even when it doesn't know what the situation is, but it's because of some kind of insight, right? There's no other way like somebody would know that something is or is not going to happen. It could be intuition, it could be an inkling, it could be anything, it can be many things. Cool. That one was more, I feel like it was easier and it's whatever, but more challenging to almost grasp. We're gonna hold up. And double energy was at the bottom. So it circumvents that devil energy. It never falls prey. And because it doesn't fall prey, it's like whenever a tower falls to clean something up, like the scrubbing from Brahm, that was the crucible of Saturn. there's nothing for Brahm to clean. Something is already pure enough that it doesn't need to be sort of like smelted or whatever. The Sun and the Hermit. Virgo season? Face rolling life. Wouldn't that be? Number 2 is face rolling life. Two of Cups and the Knight of Pentacles. All right. This will be the last one. 1, 2. Oh, 3. We're not doing jumpers. I'm using clarifiers. The 3 of Pentacles and the Ace of Cups flipped over. Oh gosh. I'm just like launching these cards. Why did it almost look like this was a schematic for the cup? Like this is the plans for this Ace of Cups or something. And I did pick it up in reverse. And so it's like wider at the bottom and more narrow at the top. What the freak? Weird. Knight of Cups, the Fool, and the Emperor are the bottom 3 cards. Oh, you can't even see the Emperor. There you go. We gotta. Go. There we go. Looking again for Temperance one more time. As the anchor of alchemy, what flanks you? Was that 2 cards? Nope. Sometimes they stick a little bit. Sometimes they feel a little thick. Ooh, oh. We saw one of these cards before. Wow. Okay. Cool. Temperance is in between Justice and the King of Swords. Now, I thought I saw something. I didn't. For a second, I thought the King of Swords had his sword like upside down, like in Justice. Flanking this energy, though, is the Queen of Swords and the Knight of Swords. They're both rushing off in different directions. But like Justice, the King of Swords faces forward. So it's not looking towards what you could say is the past. Neither is it looking towards the future. Interesting. Let's see what rooms come up with this. Excuse me. I wonder if this is involved somehow. with that, justice has found the king of swords while the queen and the knight are sort of looking for something. Their plans to replicate. Now, the lowest hanging fruit here is fate slash. So what? Fate stay night. Omni blade works. Fate zero. All of those like Grail, Holy Grail. I was like, not Holy Chalice, not the Golden Grail. Those sort of energies. That's a very. I don't even know if that's a low hanging fruit, because like that's a fallen fruit. That fruit's on the ground, you know. Um, so the first rune we have is Yarna, woven yarn, unwind, number 44. We see another of the wool eyes, followed by the nine of pentacles. I've always got the vibe that these that's we saw that this shape, right? So this is like the ing, and if you pull the feathers apart, then you would get the top and the bottom. Cool. It's always seemed to me like these feathers come from at least two different birds, though. The But the Nine of Pentacles is supposed to be like all about the self. Next we have there you go. Gar, number 33. So we go from 44 to 33. Speared potential. Now it's interesting that we have the spread of these two. So we still open it up. But rather than having the east lines of the present moment, we have this sort of X cross in the middle. Also, the black and yellow, and then the black and gold on the inside. Also, the red. Wow, look at that. There's this like purpley orangey red color. It's like black and gold on the inside with the red on the outside, red from the Yarna, red, orange, yellow, and then the black and gold from. I feel like this one is going to confuse me the most. And then we have the Two of Wands. Followed by Guts, shredding, gutting. I can't tell if this is brown or like a rich purple. I think it's brown. And this is giving me almost like a gold. I mean, on here it looks more black. Maybe like a darker brown. Oh gosh. I'm just gonna go for the alchemy. It feels like these. I don't want to say this is an act of imitation, because maybe it isn't, or it's either that or something was left up to interpretation, and this is like figuring something out. Clean flip or clean fall. That's how we do the alchemy. I'm smelling food smells. Oh, well, I'll timestamp it after I get the alchemy. 2 would be perfect. Please. Like, there's been 2 so far. Am I going to get an alchemy? I'll give it 2 more. That was 1. And that was 2. We'll do the H and T thing again. Same rules that we've been using. Just as a second, I guess the triple confirmation, because at first was the insight, then was the shuffle, now it's the confirmation. Hey Google, flip a coin. Tails, which is no. So no, there's not supposed to be an alchemy. Um, this is awkward. The Knight of Swords at the bottom of the deck. Yeah, because it was the Knight and the Queen. With the last series of runes, there was something about the self in conjunction with the divine. You could say a hierophantic capacity because the Hierophant came out, and a hierophantic capacity would be an ability to hear the divine, right? If the Hierophant hears from the divine and conveys to the masses, then even before the Hierophant gets that role or position, there's an assumption that there's at least an affinity or a capability to receive from the divine, right? So that's why they got even more out of a situation than was revealed. That's how they can face roll things. It's partially inherent to who they are. The first one with the Saturnipneuma is an ability that was forged in the crucible of Saturn. So, the tower was there, you know. You could say one was a natural talent, the other one was hard earned. Both of them serving whoever well. But it's not enough to just have the talent or to have gone through the crucible. It's also how a gift and ability or whatever is used. Right. This is, I don't know, it's almost a combination of imitation. And it feels like it's because it's an imitation, it doesn't produce any result. Or at least none that the one unknown alchemy is capable of giving. Maybe it could like exceed the scale and it is so spectacular, miraculous that there is no alchemy card that could come out And that's a perfectly, if that resonates as true, then hey, take it. Usually the Queen of Swords sits as pre-justice or a minor. Yeah, she sits as pre-justice. But this time it's the king. And it's this whole, there's a collaboration that's happening. It's almost like I guess, as a metaphor for this. Like, this is AI trying to approximate a solution that is this. But even this is like the Ace of Cups in reverse. Again, wider at the bottom, more narrow at the top, is the Ace of Cups in reverse. And with this spirit potential, it has all the parts and pieces that we saw in the present moment onwardness, but they're assembled in like a weird way. Even to go from Yarna to Gutton, something is like flipped, right? This that has an implication of multiple contributors, but being the card of a single individual effort. It's almost like a science. The sublime, the esoteric approached, and it's not inherently bad. It just feels like it doesn't yield result. Like something here is like wonky or off. I don't even know what other deck I would use. Excuse me. I'm gonna timestamp this back like 2 minutes. It may be longer than that. Third, I'm gonna say 135 because I saw 135. No, I saw 134, and I was like, oh, I'll wait for 13456, but the two would be missing. So I'll say 135 because it was somewhere around here. It's the third one. I don't even know what to. I don't know. Woven yarn unwind, speared potential, guts and shredding. With Gutton. Mm. I think the most dangerous part, not dangerous, maybe most easily misleading part of this is almost an energy that you would get if we get information too quickly. Like the dangers of overstepping the Two of Swords energy is that we run the risk of thinking that we know everything or thinking that we know enough. We arrive to a certain conclusion without the context or without other information that would lead us to the correct destination or outcome. Right. And then we like get the context and then later we understand. Because you could almost say it's like there is a binding in this Nine of Swords as these feathers come together. I know they eventually come apart. These lines are crossed where they're supposed to be open. It's almost like someone's unwinding something, and then the Nine of Pentacles comes in to like bring it together. Right. And then they're like bringing it together, but these lines are crossed, but they're supposed to be open. And from where someone started to where they end up, or from where the runes start to where they end up, it's this like 180, but now there's this like shredding, shedding, not disembowelment, because disembowelment is extreme, but it's almost like the wiring is faulty or something. Something inside of the greater mechanism is like, it's like the polarities are shifted or reversed. And so it almost has like an opposite effect. Again, it's like it's upside down. And you can say that the King of Swords is looking in the present moment because the Knight of Swords face the past, the Queen of Swords face the future, and I probably said it myself. But there's something that's like off. And it's again because of the schematic of the Three of Pentacles, it's almost like someone knows what to do, but they don't know why. Or like someone has a general understanding of what to do, but they don't know enough of the specifics to notice that it's like upside down, right? Because when the cup is upright, it's open to receive water, even though water comes out. When the cup is upright, it's open to receive water. But if you put a cup upside down, it's not open to receive what it is created to, built to receive. The things that are woven that now must be unwound. And I keep thinking of Spear Trothed from the finished edition of the Liverpool. And it's still speared, but it's the troth, the promise of the current edition versus the potential of the raw room. And call me jaded, call me ignorant because I don't know a lot of Norse mythology, but a lot of what I do know of Norse mythology is that a promise to Odin does not, in the same way that the last sort of series of runes could read the intentions behind something, like a promise to Odin means sometimes worse than nothing. Because more often than not, it benefits Odin and it severely doesn't benefit whoever is making the promise or the guarantee with Odin. Speaking of someone who's like gonna take advantage. Where was I going with that? I don't. Every time I see this, I can't help but think of it. And I was the intention was to use the raw form as they are because I'm not using the other deck. If I was using the other deck, I mean, I guess there's always like bleed through between editions or different versions of the same card. Maybe with this understanding, or because of how this is laid out, and again, it's when it's this is why I was saying it. It's almost like the energy of knowing too much too soon. Because when we have a destination in mind and something is put in front of us, now we have an idea of what this is supposed to be. So rather than being open and explorative, rather than exploring and engaging sort of in the moment, like we saw with the last series, and not to necessarily compare, but I guess I'm making the comparison. It's like it's locked in on one thing in particular. And because it's locked in, there are so many things that something could be that it won't be. But also, we're trying to force certain materials to an expected outcome. And maybe they don't get what we want without a certain knowledge, without the addition of certain materials, without a technique or input that we haven't come upon yet. But we keep trying to like force something. And it's a closed vessel. It's almost like again, it's that reversing of the reversal of polarities. It works against what it is intended to do. If you put a cup upside down, it's never going to fill with water unless you do the whole like you light the match, then you put the cup upside down over the match. It creates a vacuum that pulls the water in. But I'm not seeing the fire to create the vacuum. This is just frustration at an upturned cup that will never fill. Now, I could pull before and after the Seven of Wands, since this is the last one, because the Seven of Wands is the lit match, to see what it would take for this vessel to hold water. I guess I could have did the Eight of Wands too, but that was like more of a thunderstrike. Thunderstruck. The Seven of Wands is in between the Eight of Swords and the Son of Pentacles. It's almost like with the Eight of Swords and the Son of Pentacles, you could say that it would require, you could say it would require faith almost in the presence of fear, uncertainty, or the unknown, proceeding forward anyway. Pace, the Knight of Pentacles is always moving forward. And it almost feels like if this series were capable of doing that, it wouldn't have sought whatever it was seeking with this Three of Pentacles energy. Because something naturally would have been revealed in time. it's almost this like no promises, no guarantees. But you could almost say it's like a question of if we can still do whatever we're doing without a promise or a guarantee of some kind of result, end goal. And again, that plays more on the potential of a thing in its raw rune state rather than what is like promised. Because this is almost where this, I don't want to say where it falls apart, because but it creates a blockage where something should be open. Is this frustration? It's almost like that point in time where you just try like everything because again, like you know what something is supposed to do, but it's not doing it. I guess you could say when I almost want to say when too much clarity is a bad thing, but I guess it would be more apt to say when too much clarity is actually too little. It's almost supposed to be like a when we know enough to know that we don't know anything, or when we learn enough to know that we, how do I say this without using the same words? When we come across enough information to realize that we know less than we thought we did, rather than coming across information and forming some kind of knowledge or reaching some kind of conclusion based off of that. And again, when we have an end goal in mind, it's easy to go like, oh, this must be the information I was missing. So I'm going to apply this to what I was already doing and it's going to get me to go where I want to go. And it's like, no, like the revelation of these things that you hadn't even considered, that you didn't even know, is supposed to be the thing that gets us to realize like, oh, like there's a lot more at play here. Let me like take a step back, reassess, let me continue to like gather information. Let me take this back to like the drawing board and not like let me try to force this into. I saw something. It was somebody, it was a picture on the internet. It could have been on Facebook. I don't remember. It was like someone trying to get like a huge thing into a small car. And it was like somebody didn't play with those one toys. Like some people didn't play with those one toys as a baby, and it shows. And it's the toys where like you have, is it like a hexagonal? It's probably not hexagonal. It's probably like dodecahedral or whatever. But they're like a bunch of different pegs and you have different blocks and then the baby tries to put the square block into the round peg and it doesn't fit, and it's like having that experience so young can develop a sense of like spatial awareness or something like that. Baby toy pegs and holes. It's a variation of this. It's not the one I was thinking of. Blocks, maybe blocks instead of pegs. I'll say blocks. Oh, that didn't help. That kind of helps. Is it this one? It's a variation. Something like this. right? If it'll focus. There you go. Something like that. And like then you kind of learn, okay, these pegs, blocks go in like these holes. But without that experience, it's just like continuously trying to force something where it doesn't belong. And so that's why it gets like a non-result or something like seems like a dud. And it's almost like eventually it would reach a point of frustration or an escalation of like trying to force something. And so maybe it's giving Cinderella and the Glass Slipper, but like the not necessarily Disney version of Cinderella, where the stepmother was like mutilating her daughter's feet to try to get them to fit this shoe. And it's a glass slipper. So, you see the blood pooling in the shoe. You know that, like, this is not your shoe. This is something that. And then, like, they're hobbling to Cinderella and the princess. Like, Cinderella still gets with Prince Charming or whoever. But now they're, like, hobbling to the wedding because they didn't like necessarily self mutilate, but they allowed it to happen as much as the daughters could. You know, the daughters were what they were, but their mother was who she was. So, how much choice did they really get in how they A turned out or B like treated Cinderella? Anyway, that's beside the point. And it almost feels like there's a natural conclusion. There is a natural. It almost feels like it would be easier to reach a conclusion if there wasn't a preconception about what the result is supposed to be. Almost like there's a flow that is so like natural or easy from one state to the next, but it's completely abandoned again for what something should be. And maybe this justice is a concept of justice that we have. And because of our concept of justice, there's a way that things will turn out. So it becomes a different kind of presence. It becomes a presence that's not necessarily fluid, or where there is no flow, again, because of what something is expected to be. So it's an energy, again, it's an energy that's almost like the last one with the Seven of Cups and the Page of Cups, but the cup and the Page of Cups was upright so it could hold the fish, right? But this cup is in reverse. It's engineered in reverse. And rather than like intuitively receiving or knowing or discerning when that Seven of Cups energy comes up, it's almost like an expectation. Similar, it's almost like similar navigation styles, but completely different. And whatever this is, it doesn't work for the individual. I'm gonna ignore all of that and keep shuffle. Oh. A card immediately flies into the air and does its flip and falls back into the deck. I'm gonna ignore all of that. This leads to nothing, and we're gonna see what just flipped over. No, I had a feeling it would be something like this, so I'm not surprised. It's vinegar. Acetum, number 34, and it came out immediately. Bottom of the deck is coagulation. coagulatio number 66, actually. We have 44, 33, and 66. All of these like master numbers that would lead one to think that like, oh, like this is a synchronistic whatever, like this is supposed to whatever, but like again, it doesn't result in anything besides vinegar. But again, it's almost like rather than allowing the synchronicities to build up and reveal something, it it's confirmation bias. Easy. Oh my gosh. I could have saved myself like 10 minutes. Like it's a heavy confirmation bias to the point where it doesn't see things as they are. It sees things as they wish, want, or will them to be. But whatever it is forcing does not create what it wants. It's like mixing whatever the components of vinegar are and expecting like some sugary drink or sugar, expecting sugar, but like vinegar is the outcome every single time. It's almost like instead of what insanity, the definition of insanity is like repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Instead of repeating the same thing over and over again, they're like different things that are done, but with the same expectation. So to either do different things, no, to either do the same thing and expect a different result, or to do different things in expectation of the same result, like both of those are fall under the umbrella of insanity. The almost tragic element here is like it feels like a lot of the material is presented, and if we could look at the things as they are rather than as we wish, will, or want them to be, we would see what this leads to. We almost spoil it by forcing it. 34, which is in some way a mirror of breath. The 4 in 34 is a mirror to the 6 in 36. Instead of XXXIV, it's XXXVI. And that was the breath that we saw earlier in Numa. But again, like that fog was the breath of Saturn. It wasn't the breath of Neptune. This is an energy because in the breath of Saturn, it felt like, again, that was an energy that had gone through the crucible of Saturn. And so it emerges victorious. It sees the fog as the breath of Saturn. This is something that would almost result, that would be the result of treating the breath of Saturn as if it were the fog of Neptune. Treating the fog that is the breath of Saturn as if it were a result of Neptune. And because this is so convinced that it's a Neptunian energy, it almost like drives itself crazy, even in the myriad of ways that it approaches whatever. But it's like you're not dealing with Neptune, you're dealing with Saturn. And if we were to look at things almost more objectively without having the astrological knowledge that, oh, Saturn and Neptune are conjuncting right now, it's almost like having enough astrological knowledge to know that Saturn and Neptune are conjuncting in Aries. Okay, so it's almost like this. It's almost like something is happening in the area of Aries, and we know that it is like nebulous and shrouded and foggy. We know that Neptune is in Aries, so we associate or attribute whatever is happening to Neptune. So we put on all of the medicines of Neptune, or medicines for Neptune. Every antithesis to Neptunian energy we can think of, we apply. We have enough knowledge to almost be dangerous, but so little that it's more of us being a danger to ourselves. Because again, like, this is a function of Saturn. Saturn itself can be a medicine to a lot of Neptunian shadow, but to use a medicine of Saturn where Saturn is the ailment is to almost induce a toxicity, because now we're crossing the medicinal threshold of Saturn and we're entering into the toxicity. Saturn is already present. Too much of a good thing can be bad, and that would be like very bad. Right. It's almost like, you know that if you starve a fire for oxygen, eventually it'll go out. But let's say that you have like an electrical fire, and most of the oxygen in a room has already been like burned out or consumed. But because the electricity is live, like that electric current is sustaining the fire. Now imagine being in that room and sucking out even more oxygen. All we would do is suffocate ourselves and the fire would still be burning. I'm not sure like that's exactly how it works, but you have different classes of fire extinguishers to address different kinds of fire. And like electrical fires are addressed different than like chemical fires are addressed different than like more run of the mill like house fire. You have some multi-purpose fire extinguishers that can address multiple causes, but like you got to know. I mean, you don't have to know. You can just use the fire extinguisher and go, "Oh my gosh, why is this making things worse?" It's a fire extinguisher. It's supposed to extinguish fires, and it's like, "Oh, you're using like this class or this grade of a fire extinguisher, and you got that kind of fire." So it's like not throwing water on a grease fire type of energy. This is an energy that throws water onto the grease fire because it knows if there's a fire, smother it with water, but it's not taking into consideration this is a grease fire. Either because it's either because it is being ignored or it's just not known. Acetum, vinegar, acidity, distillation, memory. The tongue knows vinegar. Even the suggestion of receiving a few drops into the mouth reminds us of vinegar's sour and lip puckering qualities. In alchemy, vinegar serves as an active agent of distillation, fermentation, and preservation. It is incredibly useful when applied in the right amounts and with intention. This said, it can be easily overused, overwhelming the situation at hand. When the vinegar card is present in a reading, it indicates a sour note permeates the laboratory. It is likely something from the past is showing up in the present and demanding our attention. It is in vinegar's nature to take over, to overwhelm. Be cautious with this material. A little goes a long way. As they say, it is productive to look at your past, but not to stare. Such is the complex energy of vinegar. I love that it mentioned that, because there's something about presence that's supposed to be medicinal, but in this situation in particular, it's toxic. We saw and we still see the Knight of Swords at the bottom of the deck. The Queen of Swords is the face that is hidden now, and it's focused towards the past. There is something of the past that needs to be addressed in the present. So, the outcome that we're supposed to get is that the past is no longer relevant. We position ourselves in this way where we ignore the past, where we cut it off, where we don't look back. In this King of Swords, we are fully grounded in the present and we are not looking back. But something in the past needs to be addressed, resolved, and healed so that its present impact is diminished. That comes about by healing and attention, not through deference, dismissal, and detachment. To detach is to actually make the problem worse because it's not dealt with. That's us creating more and more and more and more vinegar in the situation and expecting something sweet. So for this, again, for vinegar just in general to come out as the card of like, if we were to force it, if we were to push it anyway, what would the resulting alchemy be? Something that is intended to overwhelm. And it's almost like, because again, if we think of Neptune and the associations with like addiction and stuff that Pisces has through association and rulership of Neptune, but also through virtue of Piscean energy by itself. It's almost like, too, in attempting to solve or resolve a Neptunian problem, it actually leans into the shadow of Neptune. We lean into something with the power to overwhelm, trying to use it in moderation to, again, just completely get over the past without having to do whatever. But we end up playing into the shadow of Neptune instead. And again, this isn't even associated with Neptune. This fog is the breath of Saturn. And it's interesting because Saturnipneuma came out with Earth Magen, thy earthly power, the womb. This attempts to get that same uli. It attempts to get the uli while circumventing Brahm and Tyr. It doesn't want to go through the crucible of Saturn, but it still wants the gold. And it uses potential and what is promised to do so. Again, with this being in the middle. Gar. You could also say that between the Nine of Pentacles and the Two of Wands, there's a lack of openness here. Oh, I could pull a card for the alchemy that is attempted, where the result is vinegar, but I'm not necessarily too sure it even matters. Massive confusion, chaos. Was at the cut with this dissolution, or with the coagulation, sorry. Oof. Oh. Vinegar is a liquid, solid liquid gas. Typically, it's a liquid, right? We have these. Again, Saturn held the gold. Through the crucible of Saturn, gold is formed that is immune to the effects of antimony, that will not tarnish like silver. The crucible was the hard work. The face rolling was it just being like easy. Either you work hard and you get good, or you just get it easy. But even with the ease of that face rolling energy, there was an amount of presence and attentiveness and intunement and attunement that made someone aware of like all of the little things that they would otherwise have to learn. This is trying to shortcut the learning and circumvent the hard work. Anyway, we saw gold in Saturn. We also see gold in vinegar. There was one piece of gold in the Saturn card. There's four of them here. But what appears to be gold is actually a coagulation of vinegar. It's coagulated vinegar. It's not gold. And maybe because it fools our senses, we think that it may fool the senses of another. Oh, it looks like gold to me, smells like gold, tastes like gold. To me, this is indistinguishable from gold. But when the fog rolls in, gold has properties that vinegar does not have. And when gold is dissolved, it's almost like gold breaks down into more gold molecules. So then you'll get like this dispersed gold. When vinegar breaks down, it breaks down into vinegar molecules. So, and I say dissolve because dissolution is behind coagulation. This coagulated gold, or this coagulated vinegar that appears to be gold, will dissolve into vinegar. So now you get fog and a cloud of vinegar rather than whatever dispersed gold. Maybe it's the conductive properties of gold that when dispersed, it'll provide a matrix, a certain set of properties that is also resistant to the antimony. And antimony is hiding in the fog. I guess only the hard work of Saturnipneuma or the good sense of Argentum, vivum, volte, faciem will find the wolf. And I'm pretty sure we actually saw antimony in that second one. But it was like upright that time instead of it being in reverse because it just has the sense to perceive it. It's that face rolling energy. I don't know. Anyway, I feel like I've spent more time here almost than necessary. But for anyone that this would resonate for, or however this could apply in our lives, again, it feels like this energy is knowledgeable enough that it believes it knows exactly what it needs to do, but it gets frustrated because it doesn't get the outcome that it thinks it doesn't get the outcome that it desires. And the force behind the energy feels like it's like more than sufficiently knowledgeable. Like I am in the present moment. I'm supposed to be in the present moment. Like the King of Swords came out with justice. I'm not looking to the past like the Knight of Swords. I'm not looking to the future like the Queen of Swords. I'm in the moment that all of the gurus, books, mentors, and guides tells me that I'm supposed to be in. Why isn't this working? And it's like we find ourselves in the present moment when we address the things of the past and we alleviate the concerns, worries, anxieties about the future. And that is a present state that's very different than ignoring the past and having no thought for the future. There's a difference between things being resolved and sort of like left to their own devices unattended. Anyway. And maybe with the Ace of Cups in reverse, Three of Pentacles upright, that is so weird. It's like even when we are open, what was it? Confirmation bias. Even when we listen, even when we're open, even when we see the synchronicities, the 4 4 3 3 6 6, it's confirmation bias. And so we sort of pick out what we want to hear that validates what we already think or believe rather than taking it all in and then seeing where the information sort of leads, arriving to that natural conclusion. The natural conclusion of the information may not necessarily be what it is that we wish to believe. Sometimes it's the simple thing, sometimes it's the easy thing that's actually true. Sometimes it's not a large conspiracy, and this especially contextual. Sometimes it's not this large ruse or a large play to try to make things seem like something else. Sometimes it is exactly what it says it is. Sometimes there's no like reverse psychological trick. Sometimes it just is just straight up, you know. But again, because it doesn't conform to what it is that we already believe, that's why it has to be more. There has to be a trick. It has to be a lie somewhere. It has to be more involved. It has to be anything besides what it is because we already think we have it figured out. And that's why it's the King of Swords, maybe. It's the King of Swords because it can't be convinced otherwise. Because who can say anything to the King of Swords? Who can say anything to the one that stands at the top on the throne? Sulfur at the cut with that coagulation. Again, not necessarily surprised because sulfur has a smell almost like vinegar. Like sulfur has a very powerful smell and odor, just like vinegar has a very powerful smell and odor. Oof. And then we see the hand of Pluto. Sulfur plus Pluto, girl. That is a whole arena that we are not getting into over here. That's why it's like when you don't play with certain energies, you ain't got to worry about certain energies. I don't want no smoke, so I'm not going to go rubbing sticks in the forest. You know what I mean? I'm not going to grab the flint and the tinder and go into the middle of the woods and start playing games because I don't want no smoke. And it ain't to say nothing. It ain't to say nothing besides the point in fact that I ain't looking for trouble. I don't want no smoke. I ain't go. When Smokey the Bear said only you can prevent a wildfire or a forest fire, I said, okay, Smokey, I'm not going to go smoking in the middle of the woods. I'm not going to go take a lighter. I'm not going to even have a campfire. You know, I'm going to keep the fire to the burner on the stove in the kitchen because it's gas here. It's gas here, but it was inductive where I was. So even when like I had my own place, I had an electric stove. So it's again almost going to how like different fires are different and you put out a different fire. Like that's why fire extinguishers. I feel like the reason why I know that is because I've gone through fire safety training before. I did it before I was an RA. I did it when I was an RA. When I was an RA, we actually had to like use a fire extinguisher to put out a fire. I know past pull aim, sweep, spray, or pull aim, squeeze, sweep. You pull the tag, you aim the hose, you squeeze the trigger, and then you sweep the fire extinguisher. I had did like a pss. I pulled, I squeezed, and I swept, but I didn't aim. Well, first of all, because they don't tell you what to aim at. They teach you the act. Maybe they did say. I remembered pull, aim, sweep, pull, aim. I always say pull, aim, sweep, spray, but it's pull, aim, squeeze, sweep. I was aiming for like the top of the fire, but you're supposed to aim for the base of the fire. And I wasn't aiming at the base, which is why it took me longer to put it out. And after I thought about it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I aim at the thing that is burning to put out the fire rather than aiming at the top of the flames. You know what I mean? If you cut it off at its source, it'll whatever. Anyway, I've done that before. That may be why I know, especially like there's different sort of classifications. You have like your electrical fires, your chemical fires. Um, but I think, it's pretty common knowledge that you don't use water to put out a grease fire. Because while, yes, water has certain inherent firefighting properties as the other side of that polarity, water also interacts with grease. And if the grease is on fire, then it is the properties of the grease that you have to, it's the properties of the grease that cause more issue or that is of more concern than the properties of fire. So handle it accordingly because water and oil have their own interactions, have their own interactions is the word. I want to find another word. I can't think of one of what water and oil have. And again, I guess it came out in the first one. I don't even know if the thing has happened yet. Something about Saturn. I don't listen to nearly as many like astrologers and stuff as I used to. I mean, I kind of, it's fine. And I know that like the narrative on Saturn has been changing ever since I was just like blah 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 blah. Mars in Pisces is the Ten of Cups in tarot. And tarot's been a while for a while. We have known this association. So why is every single astrologer that I'm coming across saying that Mars in Pisces is like Pisces is Neptune is an illusion. Don't do anything right now. Wait until Mars goes into Aries. Mars is home in Aries. Mars in Aries is the best placement. Literally the card of happy endings. The energy that you could use to bring all of your wildest dreams and hopes into reality. Don't do anything because Pisces is an illusion. And Mars, nothing is gonna matter. Nothing is gonna stick. That was when I really fell out with like astrology. Because at first it didn't seem right to me. And then one day I'm using the cards and I'm pretty sure I was using the SKT. And I'm like, the Ten of Cups, that's Mars and Pisces. Ten of Cups is the energy that we're like not supposed to be using right now. We're supposed to be waiting for what, the Two of Wands, Mars and Aries, when we could be living the dream. I could be living the dream right now, but you want me to wait until I'm at the starting line? I ain't even started yet. It's the Two of Wands. Like the starting pistol ain't even fired. It's still, as you can tell, it still gets me a little hot. But it's just interesting that this energy came out as like the fog is the breath of Saturn. It's not anything associated with Neptune. The only thing that Neptune has to do with it is that it just so happens to be in the same place at the same time. Ooh, Ganunga Gap in East, 1 and 0. Interesting. Well, I guess 1 and 0. Yeah, that's. But I feel like that was an astrology of yesterday. It seems that largely the sort of attitudes have changed. I just remember that was, I don't know. Lafruma. Lafruma. And Rippian. Oh, wow. 50 and 53. Ripe and mature in Elven Light. This is a maturation of that Elven Light. Interesting. And under that is the Wild Ox, Untamable. The one that we saw for the second one. Right? Oh. And then we have that Burst In, Burst Out. Free. Ooh, the ox is coming out of the pen. It's fine. Let me breathe. The cards will come back again if they're supposed to. I'm not looking for final cards yet anyway. Let me timestamp this. I'll timestamp it 2:30. I guess I'll timestamp it now. But yeah, that's why I don't know. I didn't have to go there. But again, we know enough to be dangerous and so little that the danger we pose is primarily to self. And I feel like that kind of hints on like I feel like I didn't necessarily communicate it to its completion the other day when I was like, when it comes to devil energy, like if I was devil energy or whatever, there is not, and it's no shade to any of the people that are about their work, that are about their healing, that I've come across. But I was like, I haven't met anyone that I would feel even remotely intimidated by or afraid of if I were devil energy, because people are people. Humans are gonna human. There are some people that can be above their circumstances, but it feels like we either have a point where we can be broken or we have a point where we can be bought out. And I think sometimes we like to, oh wow, that was a good shuffle, like all the way. I think, and of course, there's a threshold that we may be in the process of overcoming, or maybe some have already overcome it. But as much as good as we are at navigating our own journeys, and as much as we can like do, it's almost like how insignificant we are on certain scales and to certain energies. Almost, maybe, not necessarily. I don't know. Let's see. I'm not gonna do that. I was gonna say, can the cards help me? I don't know. Yeah, that was the whole like. I was like, how did I even get on this? We know enough to be a danger, but still so little that we're mostly a danger to ourselves. And I don't know how to put into words. It's almost like I don't maybe like as we are now, largely and collectively, at least for sure. It's almost like our impact is stunted or can be stunted in so many ways for so many reasons that it's like and maybe that's a thing of Christ consciousness, because I was going to say like who can be Jesus, who can be like Christ that would make the ultimate sacrifice, like really, like some of us ain't got to get all the way into it, just pose the question. And it's interesting how there's almost been a ramping up of can we be personally inconvenienced, or how much personal inconvenience can we sort of suffer for the greater good? How much personal inconvenience can we go through and still hold true to what it is that we claim, or stick true, be in alignment and integrity with our beliefs? Because sometimes it's like, oh, well, if my pocketbook starts to bleed, if the way that I'm used to doing things changes too much, then, I care, but I have limits. Like, what? And that's where sort of where I come from, I guess, in that as great and magnificent and powerful as we are and can be, we still have attachments, we still have limits. And maybe when Christ consciousness, because people say, it's Christ consciousness that's coming back, it's not Christ himself or itself. Maybe that's the moment. And if that is one of the criteria, because that's like kind of sort of one of the biggest things that Christ did was make the ultimate sacrifice. Maybe that's where the age of Aquarius is going to take us, where we are all willing, ready, and able to make that ultimate sacrifice, to do what is right, regardless of what it costs us. Okay. All right. I've touched this deck enough. We're going to get the final Lafruma, and then the final Wada known, and then the final Wada known, and then the final Astral Matrix. So kind of in the order I pulled them out in. Shuffled them in. All right. O for Lagu and Gar. Spiritrode. Not Spiritrode. Spirit Potential. I did it again. O for Lagu was actually at the bottom. But again, it's that energy of like what was promised. The thing about being human, I believe, is that there is what is promised, but through ingenuity, creativity, a soul embodied free will, we have the potential to get even more. We have the potential to be even more. We also have the same potential on the other side. We have the potential to be less and to do worse. So even looking at what is promised in and of itself is for us to limit our own potential, for us to draw the line at what is promised or whatever. Because the whole thing is about being more. Burst out free 74 at Burston again. And you see, it almost looks like the wild ox, untamable. So, you sacral came out face down. You sacral, like this is whatever this is that is bursting out, whatever it is that is like freeing itself. And behind this is, it was Doxian first, but then it became night, turned dark. Oh, and then we have Godmouth. Wow. Oh, Godmouth. Godmouth spoke something, and then something burst free from the night. Whoa. Oh, and we see the pink from Os in that. Because there it is right there. Cool. This comes from the inside. You trees regrow. And then we have Ash. Ash, personal Idrisil. And then you. There is, I think it's called the Emerald Ash Borer a few years ago, which is funny because I actually have a memory from that trip. I went to Michigan with my buddy, my friends. I went to Michigan, and the first stop was at a campground, and we did the whole, speaking of, under supervision and with a professional, as I was literally just talking about, I won't even do a campfire in the middle of the woods. It wasn't the middle of the woods for one. It was a clearing. It was like a campground thing. We did a campfire. They were like, "Oh, like you want to do s'mores at the campfire?" And I was like, "Girl, I don't even want to be here." When I left the accommodations up to y'all, I did not think I would be in the middle of the woods. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with it for the sake of cohesion or having a good time. Yeah, let's do the campfire thing. And I actually ended up enjoying it. But anyway, that's when I learned that a lot of ash trees are standing dead because the emerald ash borer. And if you actually look at the wood from an ash tree after you split it, you can see the path that the insects took through the tree when they killed it. You is the medicine to that because it's a rebirth that happens from the inside. And then from the inside, the branches push out to the outside. So this is bursting free from the depths of the internal void, the dark within, right? And then we also have kusma, moon, deflections, swelgeness past whirlpool earther, and hang true gallows. The past that we couldn't face in that third one, this is the path that is faced, and we see truly what it is that we were supposed to see. We get the truth from the past, and that's why the past doesn't impact the present. It's because its power has been removed. But left to its own devices, of course, like the whirlpool, it'll just grow in size. I don't know how intentionally I did this. I did these in order. And Swelgeness is 37. Kusma is number 69. But the colors are the same. Largely blue, but with the light blue. Oh, look, it's the same line, too. It's the same diagonal. In Past and the Moon, but in Hang True, it's a vertical rather than it being this slant 45-degree diagonal. Cool. I feel like that plays into the volte faciem, the despicable face. Maybe that's another thing. I think that is another thing that lets us face roll life. When we don't have the same insecurities that we do, when we're not trying to hide the same things out of shame and fear, and when we feel encouraged, empowered, emboldened to just show up and be authentic, then of course there are a lot of things that don't even affect or impact us anymore because we've already faced it. Oh, the sun is at the bottom of the deck over here. Do 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 do. With the 9 of Pentacles at the cut. Why did is it sunrise? Fiddle on the Roof, sunrise, sunset came to mind. I feel like I mix in my brain, I mix sunrise, sunset, and Anatevka. And I don't know. There's another song, another 2 songs that I do that with. It's like I'll go from one and then I'll go into the other one, and I'm like, wait. I know it's sunrise, sunset, swiftly flow the days, swiftly flow the years. But then my brain goes like, soon I'll be a stranger in a strange new place, searching for an old familiar face from Anatevka. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure those are different. I don't. Oh, I'm on images. I'm like, I don't need the sheet music. Hello, I just need the list. Sunrise, sunset. Hold up, wait. Oh, whoa! What is the opening of this? Is this the little girl I carried? Is this the little boy at play? I don't remember growing older. When did they? When did she get to be a beauty? When did he grow to be so tall? Wasn't it yesterday that they were small? Swiftly flow the days, seedlings turn overnight to sunflowers, blossoming even as they gaze. Sunflowers from the Queen of Wands, from the swiftly fly the years, one season following another, laden with happiness and tears, one season flowing following another, laden with happiness and tears. That is not Anatevka at all. I knew it wasn't, but my brain just like transitioned into that whole like soon I'll be a stranger in a strange new place. And I was like, every time. Oop. And now Into the Woods is coming into my mind. It's with the baker's wife. It's that line, if life were only moments, then you'd never know you had one. Because sunrise, sunset is about the passage of time. And then I thought back to the King of Swords and the present, being in the present moment. How the present moment, this now moment, is the only moment that exists. But then that line from Into the Woods came in, but if life were only moments, then you'd never know you had one. Just a moment, though. What is that? A moment in the woods? This has been a moment in the woods. Moments in the woods. This is ridiculous. What am I doing here? I'm in the wrong story. It wasn't me. Did a prince really kiss me? Yeah, girl, and you got a whole husband that y'all went on this whole journey through the woods together to get this whole like baby. What are you doing? And he's like, "Oh, I'm Prince Charming, not Prince Faithful, girl. Hello." Did you think that you were the only woman I've charmed? It's literally in my name. Anyway, life is often so unpleasant. You must know that as a peasant, best to keep the moment present as a present for the moment. I would be like, "Excuse me?" What? I like to say I would be like, "Excuse me," but if I met my prince in the woods, then who knows? It's easy to say what we would do when we're not in that situation. It's easy to cling to our morals when we don't have to, when it's all hypothetical. But when the moment comes, is Christ consciousness going to be present enough for us to make those sacrifices? I guess we'll see. So far, um, let the moment go. Don't forget it for a moment, though. Just remembering you've had an and when you're back to or makes the or mean more than it did before. No, it's before that. Here we go. Must it all either be less or more, either plain or grand? Is it always or is it never and? That's what woods are for those moments in the woods. Oh, if life were made of moments, even now and then a bad one. But if life were only moments, then you'd never know you had one. Right? Going from the sunrise, sunset, these beautiful moments. Well, sunrise, sunset was going to the present moment after sunrise, sunset. But if life were only moments, you never know you had one. What's the point of incarnating and being alive if we only have present moments? Like we can get that on the other side of the well. You know what I mean? Anyway, oof. I've had some North Node Sagittarius moments. Oof. Bottom of the deck is the Eight of Cups. The Son of Swords and the Mother of Cups just came out. The Son of Swords facing the same direction as the Knight of Swords. The Mother of Cups facing in the same direction. Bottom of the deck is the Eight of Cups. sometimes there are things that must be done in order for us to walk away, right? It's like trying to have a clean break while leaving things unresolved. For some things, it may work, for other things, it won't. It'll just linger and build and will accrue interest as long as it remains, as long as a balance remains, it will continue to accrue interest. Be that karmic debt or karmic dessert. Oh, if life were only a romance, even now and then a bad one. But if life were only moments, then you'd never know you had one. Was it him? Is it me? Did a prince really kiss me? And kiss me? And kiss me? And did I kiss him back? I haven't watched Into the Woods in a minute. I think I don't remember if Into the Woods was playing. I think when I was over in London, there were so many shows that I wanted to see. Disney's Hercules, I'm pretty sure Into the Woods, something else. But all of the shows I wanted to see were advertised before they were out. Like Hercules just, I'm pretty sure started Friday on the 6th. And I'm like, wow, after I'm back in America, after I'm back in the States, and I think Into the Woods has like, I think it was like a month or something. And it starts next month. I'm pretty sure it started in July. I was already disappointed at Hercules, but then I saw Into the Woods and I got excited. I think also, I just found this out recently. I think I share a birthday with Bernadette Peters, which is kind of amazing. Let's see. Let's ask Google. Hey, Google. Or not. Hey, Google. When was Bernadette Peters born?
Bernadette Peters was born on February 28, 1948.
I didn't realize she was born in 1948. But yeah, Feb 28, same day, years later. But still, I don't even know where I saw that. Anyway, all right, let's put this down. Let's recenter, reground, refocus. We can put the North Node Sagittarius back up on the hook. We ain't even got to go all the way there. We're supposed to, whatever. And it's partially like whatever, but it's partially too like there is so much information that is available at our fingertips. Not only is it like an ease of access thing, but also it's like an overabundance information. Did I say of in that? An overabundance? Yeah, I did. Because when I was like overabundance information and overabundance of information, not only that, but now there are so many people, me included, that have platforms. And sometimes, me included, the knowledge information that we give and share on our platform is knowledge information that we found. And our source is like the internet, or the source is another person on the internet. The source could even be somebody in real life. And who knows where that knowledge and information is sourced. And it's like every time it passes from mouth to mouth, person to person, a new filter is applied to it, a new understanding, different things taken away, different things emphasized, some things like left out. It becomes diluted. I guess you could say the only source that would remain pure is information that comes from source, right? If you get it from the source, but even if you get it from the source, different people need different things and have different capacities to understand and also have different motivations. So two people can go to the same source seeking the same information and come away with completely different understandings. especially if you go to a source that adapts information according to the seeker, right? Anyway. And so part of it, it's like, I think sometimes, again, we can know too much for our own good, especially when that knowing is not complete, or especially when we don't allow for life, our discernment, our intuition, spirit, the divine to flesh out that knowledge and give it a context. Look, fog in the red and white rose. It feels like there are good things. Well, is antimony? There are questionably, relatively good things hidden in the fog that are hard to see. The white or gray wolf, the white rose. If you see the little red snake, then yeah, but anyway. Oh, girl, I ain't even get to ask. Oh, gosh. Oh, goodness. Just like shadow is the result of something obstructing the light, shadow is a perceived or apparent darkness that is produced by an obstruction of light. So too can you have a shadow that mimics the dark or darkness or takes on the appearance of dark. You can have a shadow that takes on the appearance of light. There are plenty of things that obstruct the darkness. Maybe kind of sort of following up on the overabundance, oversaturation of information, but also maybe not necessarily. Um, there are plenty of things that obstruct the dark to create lights that are false lights. And recently, the benevolent guide Spiritus Rector came out as one such false light. And I was like, do I take that meaning or is it like an actual benevolent guide? But at the bottom of the deck is vinegar. And because vinegar is at the bottom of the deck, this is the sweetness that we seek and that we crave at the pungent, sour, overpowering, overwhelming presence of vinegar. And because we're at vinegar and we crave something sweet or something nice, or we crave something to alleviate the stresses, it makes us more easy to deceive with benevolent guide, with the spiritus rector. That's basically the Five of Pentacles, the Fool, and whatever card was after the Two of Swords. The Five of Pentacles, the Fool, and the Two of Swords. We're just trying to get away from something, or we're desperately trying to get to know something, and something with even a modicum of truth. When we come from something more saturated in what we perceive, or that may very well be more lies, it's easier for us to sort of gravitate towards or fall prey to. Let's get another one. That's just the thing that's possible. And then the oil of vitriol is there. And synchronicity is behind the oil of vitriol. But we've already seen synchronicity in the 44, 33, 66 or whatever from that third one. Following this, but that, like, the benefic guide is supposed to be leading us to some kind of purity. But we find out that it doesn't. That's why the angry lion snaps at us just like it'll snap at anything else. But we think that we have been on this path of purity because of the information that we follow, or the gurus, mentors, guides, whatever. But also, like, the ferocity and voracity, is that the word I want? VORACITY of the lion it's not that it proves, it's the whole, this is that energy of like, I don't know how intentional it is. It almost doesn't matter. I feel like that's kind of sort of what I was trying to get at with the whole, like, we've done these days of meditation and all of this kind of stuff. We've been manifesting 5D, higher earth. We've been putting more and more and more and more stress on ourselves individually and collectively to be better and better and better people than we've been historically or societally equipped to be. And so that oil of vitriol, that raging lion, could be all of the 5D Christ consciousness that we've been manifesting. But we don't, with that false light, we don't have the, at a large scale, individually, of course, it could be different. Personally, of course, it could be different. But collectively, we sort of like, it's like we tie a bunch of meat to ourselves and we like call in the wolves and expect the wolves to clean up behind us, but here we are dressed as bait to be the first one eaten. That's that whole like, those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. In the Angelarium, Oracle of Emanations, it's Samikiel, the Angel of Vengeance. It's the sword that cuts both ways. It's that let he who was without sin cast the first stone. It's why we would probably be better off leaving justice to the divine rather than calling down justice or seeking justice ourselves, because who among us is perfect to call down the energy of justice? And this may sound hypocritical, but that's another reason. Not really. Part of the, like, things just have to play out how they play out, because if things were solved for us as humanity, we wouldn't learn. But that's why, I don't know. I'm just like, and sometimes we need a false light. Sometimes we need reprieve, especially when the world is heavy and dark. I feel like that hasn't come out in a while. It's interesting because for a minute it was like, when the world goes dark, shine brighter. That was like years ago, 2020, 2021, mostly 2020, I'm pretty sure. When the world goes dark, shine brighter. But here more recently, it's been a darkening of the light. Like, hide your light until it's time for the night to be over. New Pearl and the Androgen. All right, I'm gonna put this deck down. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the intent doesn't always come across. I mean, people that know me, sure, I'm sure they can see it. I'm not. It's fine. It's not up to me to control how I am perceived. All right. Three of Cups, Three of Wands, Three of Pentacles. These are the ones that we've seen. The Six of Cups is also there. All right. Final card. The High Priestess just like flipped over with a slew of cards. I flipped them back over. It was a dirty flip. I'm like, that's too many. I recognize her nebula. The starry edge of the card. I didn't even see her face. Ooh, girl. This card came out in the SKT too. We saw the Three of Wands, Pentacles, and Cups in the SKT. The Mason, the Kindred, and the Politic. We also saw Apocalypse. The card that came out is Judgment. It's this fiery phoenix, but look at the skulls on the ground. This one bird rises. There are some of them are like grasping. I've never noticed that. They're like grasping at the feet of this bird at these talons. Maybe even at its tail feathers, but its tail feathers are made of fire. Two of Cups is the bottom of the deck. And then the Queen of Swords sits here in her role as pre-judgment. As pre-judgment, it's like as she's like almost looking upwards and gestured like more towards the sky, it's almost like the Queen of Swords realizes that the judgment is not hers to make. Judges are interpreters and upholders of the law, not creators of it. And she understands her role well. We all have intuition and discernment. And we are all responsible for our own choices and decisions. So even if we are misled or misguided, even with things such as like confirmation biases or whatever else, we all have a capacity to recognize the truth. And if we choose to forego that and to do something extreme or whatever, does some of the blame fall on the Hierophant that leads their flock astray? Sure. But we are all individuals with free will, and we're given free will for a reason. If we choose to surrender that free will over to anything or anyone, that choice is ours, and we're responsible for that choice, in addition to the things that we do. This speaks to the conscience within us, this Two of Cups, and the proximity and ability to get to know the divine for ourselves. And so when judgment happens, whatever the verdict is, we are assessed as individuals. Now, what that speaks to in a larger context, I don't know. Oh, look. It is the box art. It's also interesting that we see judgment because I recognize the high priestess by her nebula, her galaxies, the stars that she's surrounded by. I should be able to go quick if I was able to just see her by that, right? I'm going to do a real quick flip through and stop on her. Maybe. There she is. So it's with that like purpley whatever next to her. Yeah. Anyway. I feel like I'm not the only person on YouTube. Plus, I'm not your intuition or discernment, right? I'm a messenger, I guess. I'm a person who, at the very least, seeks a message and goes live to attempt to convey it. All right. I'll close my eyes. I could show you the cards after cut, but I'm trying to get a final card. And we don't necessarily have to make this longer. Whatever needed to be said has been said. Look, there's that saccharum sweetness sugar at the bottom of the deck. Okay. With the yellowing Xanthosis. I actually saw Xanthosis a few times when I was shuffling to get the final card. I kept seeing it at the cut. Clean flip or clean fall. I'm going to clean flip. Clean flip or clean fall. Ooh. Well, it flipped. It was a clean enough flip. It's the red and white rose, number 59. Bottom of the deck is Mortificatio, mortification. And it's number 68. It may be the last card in this deck. Mortificatio at the bottom of the deck. The card that came out is the red and white rose, Floss Sapientum. Sal Sapientum or Sal Sapiente was the last card last time, Wise Salt. And now we have Floss Sapientum. So is this the Flower of Wisdom? Why am I picking up my phone? I'm actually going to read Mortificatio first. No, Canunctio was the last one. Mortificatio, mortification, decay, death, and decomposition. Mortificatio was the great alchemical operation of darkness. What was once composed now decomposes. What was once presentable is now despicable. Interesting, because we saw the despicable face. And that was like the opposite. It's the process of allowing what is despicable or shameful to be seen. It's to present the despicable regardless of its despicality. I'm pretty sure despicableness, despiciality. I don't know. It's to present it anyway. But here, this is the presentable becoming despicable. Maybe I should just read it. I ain't got to go further into the whole Spiritus Rector, the Benefic Guide, the obstructions that create false light. What was once presentable is now despicable. This stage cannot be avoided. The underworld has taken us into the dark interior of its belly, and here we reside until spring. Through the natural process of decay, we descend into depths we didn't know existed. The alchemist soon finds Mortificatio is a stage of regeneration and sacred power, where the soil is fertile and rich, offering nourishment for tomorrow. We did see Nine Shadows nutrients with, what was it with? I don't remember. Owl senses, that's what it was with. Nine Shadows nutrients was with owl senses, the dark and the ability to see through it. Anyway, this stage cannot be rushed. The darkness must have time to do its work, to dismantle and to loosen, to free us from old scripts and stories. As we learn to surrender to this great operation, the earth churns and wisdom whispers in the dark. She envelops us with grace and the promise of what's to come. Wisdom whispers in the dark of Mortificatio, death and decay, and then we have this vibrant red and white rose, Floss Sapientum. Emphasis on the Sapientum, emphasis on the wisdom, and Floss Sapientum, number 59. Flos sapientum, the red and white rose. This is vital force rising, arising, and awakening. Look at this spring energy. In the laboratory, the merging of red and white is an exquisite moment. It means something is coming to life before the alchemist's eyes. The pristine white of the rose is not threatened by the blood red pigment. Their mixing does not make pink. Rather, each color remains vibrantly itself, expressing its message. Like the rod of Asclepius, which is in the Two of Cups that we saw at the bottom of the deck, of that judgment. Yeah. The rod of Asclepius. Sorry, I should have just kept reading. Rather, each color remains vibrantly itself, expressing its message. Like the rod of Asclepius, representing health and vitality, the flos sapientum appears to signify the awakening of the physical as a gateway to the spiritual. Without the body, spiritual teachings remain conceptual, not yet integrated into the everyday. This card encourages the alchemist to honor the body as a temple each and every day, observing it, listening to it, mining it for information and guidance. At its height, this card signifies a mastery, a uniting of body to serve the soul's purpose, as seen in the like of dancers, athletes, and during the birth process. What I love about this is, what did it say? Hold on, let me reread it. Also, there was something else up here. This card, Flos Sapientum, appears to signify the awakening of the physical as a gateway to the spiritual. Here is this whole initiatory awakening arising thing. The second set of runes, Argentum vivum, speaking of the despicable face, what was presentable becomes despicable. That which has already become comfortable with the despicable to the point that it presents it does not need any purification by the oil of vitriol. Again, and we saw the oil of vitriol with that set of runes. It's immune because it has nothing to purify. It is by continuously abiding by what is presentable or whatever that, again, that's that surge, the building, whatever, that will wash out. Anyway, the point was the quicksilver. The quicksilver that naturally and easily stood at the boundary between the physical and spiritual, the internal, the external, science and the esoteric. The only thing that was required was presence. Literally, just show up. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to say anything. Just show up. And here's the Flos Sapientum that does, well, this doesn't do exactly that because it requires more than just presence here. That's why it was that face rolling energy. That's everything else. That second set just like easily blows right through. And maybe again because it accepted its despicable face. That is the Five of Cups and the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, the grotesque, the very thing that makes us unique and divine. Sometimes, more often than not, according to the deck, is the thing that we find shame in. When you embrace that, you don't need a guide. You don't need a false light. You don't need the darkness to be obstructed, to be comfortable or whatever. And it's that same darkness that this light is bursting out from, right? We saw Night, Woldoxian at Burstin, and Os, Godmouth. From the darkness, right? Not from the light, not from what is presentable, not from what is easily digested and digestible, not from the, whatever. Also, the uniting at its height, this card signifies a mastery. We've seen the journeyman, the adept that had finished. What is the word I was looking for? Not accomplished, completed its apprenticeship that was verging on now going into a mastery. But the uniting of a body to serve the soul's purpose, when the energy of he who fights with monsters came out, right? I feel like I didn't do a great job of explaining it. And also because there's how the information, there's the story and the narrative of he who fights with monsters, but then there was the vibe that I was getting. And the vibe that I was getting, he who fights with monsters was a good basis, but it wasn't necessarily completely a one for one. But the whole that's what the Destroyer and the Revelations edition of the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, the purging, the initiations to receive something of divinity, that was exactly that. The body goes through these changes to better suit the soul. And because the body is a better mirror for the soul, that's when you get the elixir that turned the fool into the angel. Because without that soul body connection, even if anatomically you could sprout wings, even if energetically you can sprout wings, without that soul connection, they're decorative, right? It's the soul that animates the body. It's easier when the body is physical and less spiritual, less energetic, less whatever. It's easier when the functions are physical, bodily, and not spiritual, esoteric, whatever. There is a line where it blurs, and that's the line easily straddled by that Quicksilver, probably at the um, that's where this Argentum sort of starts and begins. Anyway, that was all of this. 3 hours later, didn't necessarily expect it, but that's fine. I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know what I expect when I do these. I almost wonder when I went to the bathroom earlier. I was like, I wonder if this like keeps coming out because I'm not communicating it effectively enough. And by effectively enough, I was like, I wonder if I just like North Node Sagittarius a little bit too hard sometimes because it's not completely irrelevant. It is like tangential to the point, but it's not necessarily the point. You know what I mean? So, Google rules for like, am I like getting it or not? Hey, Google, flip a coin. Woo! Oh my gosh. That would have been so embarrassing if Tails came up and was like, nah, bro, like you're way off the mark. It's like, yeah, girl, like you're getting it, you got it. Take it as it resonates if it resonates. And if it don't resonate, don't take it. If it does resonate, apply a heaping amount of discernment. Because maybe what's the saying? These are the times that try men's souls. Maybe these are the times where we find out how much Christ consciousness is truly here. Because again, the one thing that Christ really did was make the ultimate sacrifice. Right. There were the miracles. There were the party tricks. There was feeding the masses, 5 loaves and 2 fish. There was walking on water. There was all kinds of things that were also important. But the main thing was the ultimate sacrifice that was made at the end. You know, I'm sure at the very least he didn't want to die. And if he had any kind of foresight, I'm sure maybe he was like, I'm dying for who? I'm dying for what? So they can turn around and do what? But you know, it had to be done. And he made that sacrifice anyway. Right? Like the things that we're asked to do in life, you know. Or maybe Christ consciousness means something different. I don't know. Who am I? Anyway, I hope you all have an amazing whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path, journey, where you find. Whoever you need, you find. However you need it to be delivered, I hope you find. You know what? I'm gonna do this real quick. Oh, this is the deck I have. I've been live a lot lately. There was the octopus alchemy of, you know what? Let the collective be the collective. Let the collective go through whatever the collective is going through. Your job right now is to detach. And I'm glad I did because there were significant things for me to discover and experience in that time away. and I needed to be with myself for it through it. But what is Patrick doing here? Oh, girl. Oh, that was unexpected. Bottom of the deck is the Erudite, Hermit of the Mysteries, Luke's ex Tenebris, Light and Darkness. Where I am, you also may be. I think that was Pachelbel's canon. We see one of the eyes of God. It's the Earth one because of where the ribbon meets the water. Lucio non uro. What does that mean again? I feel like it's like to a light but not burn. Let's see. Lucio non uro. Shine, I shine, not burn. That's how it translates in English. A prominent Scottish clan. What? This motto is associated with the mountain in flames, symbolizing the clan's unwavering determination and ability to endure diverse adversity without being consumed. I shine, not burn. Wow. This is especially interesting. The mountain in flames, because of what has been perceived to be volcano energy by me. And not to say that some of those volcanoes weren't volcanoes, but mountain plus fire can equal something other than volcano. So you just got to be open, you know? The cards that came out, it's the Stronghold of the Grail with the Corruptor, Herald of the Purifying with the Corruptor. Oh my gosh, this is the Seven of Cups and the Page of Cups again. We've already seen this combination. This was the second combination. This was the face rolling. Okay. Cool. That was Quicksilver and the Despicable Face. Another card, and then the Politic came out, Sun and Aries. But this is the Three of Fire. It's Pyromancy. Right? Three sages or wise men come together and gaze into the fires of prophecy. They each divine something from it. They stare into the same fire and from three different perspectives get potentially three different messages. A card came out face down, and that card is the Demiurge, Venus and Aries, Four of Wands. This is one of my birth cards, by the way. We have Venus and Scorpio, trine Venus and Aries. No, that's not a trine. Venus and Scorpio and Venus and Aries is Venus in the place of Mars. But we also have the Sun and Mars with the Three of Wands. Venus is meeting Mars in both of its homes. I do have the Book of Maps. I'm not going to pull it up. Three of Wands, Four of Wands, Seven Wands for Seven Cups. Yeah, I mean, the card said it. It wasn't me. Herald of the Purifying and the Corruptor. The Erudite, Lucio non oro. I shine, not burn. Imagine that. Imagine walking into a church and then you catch on fire. And people are like, oh my gosh, they're burning because there's some like vampire or something. And then the person's like, no, I'm shining, not burning, bro. Imagine. Imagine. Okay. Fuel my little ego. We'll get one more. Okay, that was cute, but like for real. What's that? Is that Pony? I hear the bass line to Pony outside. Doom, 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 doom. Ooh, the sharpshooter with the corruptor. Yeah, but for real though, like, let's be for real. Let's not just gaslight. I'm just kidding. I mean, my whole thing is it's not ego. It's like if you know who you are. You know what I mean? I don't come on here and pretend to be more or whatever. I don't gas myself up or whatever. Actually, in a lot of ways, it's fine. I don't know. But it is in those times really where it's like, if I feel like there's something that warrants saying, I'm going to say it. And I feel like we can unwittingly work against our own interests a lot of times. And we can pile more onto our plates than is necessary. Again, with that third room, the most challenging or difficult of the three is that we would naturally, through natural process, we would get to whatever destination we would need to get to. We don't need to seek so much, especially things that we're not yet ready to learn, under pretenses that are so heavily motivated by what we try to distance ourselves from or avoid, to the point where we just, again, we feel like we know enough to be dangerous or to be effective. But in reality, sometimes it's so little that the only danger we pose is to ourselves. Or we only effectively work to keep ourselves exactly where we are. Insanity is either doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, or doing many different things, expecting the same result. And we only recognize the insanity in doing different things, expecting the same result, when we get to the point where we sort of understand what it is that we don't know, or why it is that we end up in the same place and situation. Right? It's that whole 3 3 3 3 3. It's that whole spiral. And life doesn't have to be a spiral, but it becomes one. It can be. Some, you could say it's the default. But it's like when we go, we have all of these different like I'm doing things completely different. Why do I keep ending up in the same situation? It's another flavor of insanity. Especially when, anyway, it's fine. But for real though, we have the shining flame, lightning in the pyre with the joyous one, 10 of chalices. Again, another combination of fire and water. Bottom of the deck is the Archangel of Healing, angel who salves and purifies. And behind that is the Demiurge, the Four of Wands again. Herald of the Purifying, angel who salves and purifies. She's just, I can't get away from it. That's the truth. Well, if that's the truth, you may need to reevaluate your methods. Hey, if the soft stuff worked, we wouldn't be where we are. I'm kidding. Cool. Again, I hope y'all have an amazing whatever whenever you see this. This has been 35 extra minutes on top of the 3 hours of who knows what. But that's fine. I don't mind it. Like, I remember I had a dream before where I just like popped up somewhere, and I guess that's interesting because the creator came out in the Osho's and Tarot recently, but I had this dream a while ago. Actually, I may be able to. I'm pretty sure I recorded this dream. Let's go to dreams. 165 entries. If I put diamonds, it should pop up.
That is ignorant. You come up here and get the head button me. Look at this. What the world is this? You're trying to help me up.
It's not this one. I wish I could search in here. Like, where is diamonds in here? Oh, a song was in my head. Is this the one? No, I remember this. Sometimes I like read these dreams and I like recall them almost like a memory. It's like, yeah, I remember this dream. I can almost see the whole dream play out in my mind. No, did I not record it? Maybe I didn't do diamonds. If I do fire, oh, of course. I think it was more recent than not. Oh yeah, I remember this one. I remember this one too. I actually remembered this dream recently. That's interesting. Wow, I never saw how these two dreams were connected until now. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I had a dream a while ago. 33737. I had 337373 33737. It wasn't recently. It was a few years ago. It doesn't matter. Well, it's probably a North Node Sagittarius dream. Anyway, that's all I got. I feel a little broken recordy, but also at the same time, there are levels and layers that are revealing themselves that weren't necessarily seen before. Mostly the self element. I don't know. Yeah, I don't. I'm not necessarily claiming to be a Christ consciousness, whoever. Would I make the ultimate sacrifice? Some days, maybe. Some days, definitely not. Some days, the only thing I would, yeah, it's fine. I'm just like, I don't have the heart. I don't think it would be asked of me either, right? We'll do 2 rounds. Would I is the first one, and would I be asked to? Hey Google, flip a coin. Would I? No, I wouldn't. Hey Google, flip a coin. Hey Google, flip a coin. Flip the coin! Why are you flipping a coin? I'll just start all over, I guess. Hey Google, flip a coin. Okay, there we go. So, according to Google, I would, but I wouldn't be asked to. I don't know. I think sometimes I'm softer and more compassionate than I would like. Other times, I'm not soft and compassionate enough for others' liking. It's a not so fine balance. Anyway, I hope you all have an amazing whenever, again. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. Again, maybe it's that part. Like, I hope that you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I think sometimes we can be convinced that we are. Sometimes that convincing is self-convincing. But the more happy, healed, whole people there are in the world, the better experience I'll have for navigating through it. You know what I mean? Like, imagine a day like any other day, but everyone's having a good day, right? So even if you do get cut off in traffic, you know what? It's fine. If you accidentally cut somebody off in traffic, you're like, oh my gosh, my bad. And they're like, yeah, it's fine. If you have to wait in line and you're like, it's fine. Or if someone else has to wait on you and they're like, it's fine. You know? I don't know. I want you to succeed so that you don't hate when I succeed. I'm just I mean, kind of, sort of. I mean, that's definitely a part of it. All right, I'm out of here.